Welcome to an episode of Game Boys, a solo episode. This is me, Anders, doing a solo thing. Mike's not here right now. This is kind of a thing I prompted on my own. Just wanted to do a little experiment, solo Game Boys kind of episode. We'll do more in the future with me and Mike, and just see what we do. So this right here, what we're seeing. This is Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, one of my favorite games. I'm going to try and refrain to saying every time, but I'm interrupting myself already. Fuck, I just did the thing I didn't want to do. So, we are playing Metal Gear Solid 5 on the Xbox 360, if that's not, fuck. If that's not, oh, stop doing this. It's so hard to not do, but, I'm already fucking this up, and we're not even into the game yet. But anyway, this is Metal Gear Solid 5 on the Xbox 360. Why am I playing on the Xbox 360, you might be asking? Well, I played this game on pretty much everything at this point. This is actually the one I haven't done yet. Right here, we're in the intro. This is actually a pretty long intro, so the majority of this video is not going to be long takes. I'm going to probably, at times, just, be quiet and just cut that out entirely unless it's a actual important part to the game. I mean, this is if you've played Metal Gear Solid 5, for those out there that haven't, excuse me, the intro of this game is actually pretty long. Almost, I would say, it's like an hour. It's like an hour intro. You got this whole thing where you're waking up in the bed. So anyway, I could do some fill-in on the story, or I could just tell you why I'm playing it. Let's do some fill-in on the story. If you're not aware with the Metal Gear Solid series, Metal Gear Solid is a stealth action series. It's mostly sneaking around and using, items and weapons to kind of get from point A to point B. Usually the games always featured kind of indoor corridor-like areas, a little scaled down. It wasn't until the third game, Snake Eater, where you were kind of in more open areas, and that introduced a survival element. It also introduced you to the character you play in this game, Big Boss, who is actually the enemy, the main bad guy of the original two Metal Gear games, and then in Solid, the bad guys in that are demanding the body of Big Boss. It's a really weird, actually, at this point I don't want to call it weird, because it's just kind of complicated and really avant-garde, I guess you could say, but that's how the series is, and that's kind of why it's one of my favorite series. And this game, in particular, right up there with Metal Gear Solid 3, is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I had so much fun with this game upon release. It was just a blast to play. A lot of grievances people had post-release, what with the development, and there was a lot of internal affairs that affected the overall quality. But I think, in terms of gameplay, in terms of what is there of the story, this is still one of the best games ever made. Was one of the best games of the year when I played it, and still one of my favorite games of all time. I had so much fun with this game. The PS4 version was the first one I played, and logged a lot of hours in that. And of course later I played the Xbox One and a little bit of the PC and PS3 version, but overall I think I put a couple, that kind of freaked me out actually, a couple hundred hours, and I'd say close to 300 to 400 hours in the PS4 version. So I'm pretty familiar with the overall game itself. And the Xbox One version, close to around 60 hours or 70 hours, something like that. Still a good amount for like a game like this, but not as much as the other as the PS4 version, the first one I played. But this one I am kind of. I mean, I know this game kind of inside and out. I haven't 100%ed, despite the fact I put so many hours into the PS4 version. And this one is just kind of a little fuck around experiment, just trying to see what the difference is. I mean, I'm familiar with pretty much all the versions of this game. I'm just kind of playing this one because I found it for cheap. It's honestly the worst version, and that's not to say this is going to be a bad game. It's just going to say, hey, it's technically the most inferior version you can get to. Like, you would have to go down good ways in quality on the PC version to even get close to this. I would assume. I mean, the 360 is a console that was already 10 years old when this game came out. So, I mean, the fact that it's even on the game, and that I heard really low amount of like criticism towards this version, is kind of impressive, because it's like, it's just, you think like something that's already impressive on a current console like the PS4 running on a 360 is going to be like, man, you're going to see quite a drop. But this is probably one of the best looking games on the 360, and it runs pretty decently. I mean, it has its slowdowns and it has its lower frame rate. I mean, most versions, most of the ideal versions run at 60 frames. I mean, look at the particle effects. You can see in the background there's like little white dust particles just kind of floating through the air, and it's not perfect. Anyway, as we get further into this very long intro sequence, we are now entering the part where you have to create a name. This plays into the game a lot later on, but for right now, it's just kind of a thing that you do. I'm not going to say exactly what it means to the game. It's mostly for the online element. You have an avatar that you use online, but they kind of make you do this in the intro for some reason, which I always thought was weird. Excuse me. As I said, it does play later on into the game. People who've already played the game, and we're nearing like the 2-year mark on this game being around. People who've played who've already played the game. Actually, I'm going to put the birthday closer to now so I can get that sequence. People who've already played the game know what I'm talking about, but just to kind of allude to whatever it may be, it's mostly just an avatar thing for the online, but it plays a second role in the story, and we might get to that point. I don't even know if I'll even beat this game on the 360, especially in this recording. I mean, it's a pretty long game, just if you're just gonna blow through it. I mean, close to, I'd say, 30 to 40 hours, give or take. I mean, there's probably people like beat it a lot sooner, but I usually take the missions pretty slow because I want to go all stealth. Might play it a little differently this time. I mean, I'm so used to playing the game one way that it will be a little difficult to switch, but we'll see what happens. So, mostly we're gonna get past this intro sequence. It's a pretty, as I said, pretty long. So we'll just see what's up with this. Anyway, getting back to the Metal Gear series. Coming up to this game, this is actually a prequel. Although this should be the last game in the series. There are more maybe coming out. I mean, there's already one confirmed, Metal Gear Survive, or whatever the heck that game's called. Yeah, Metal Gear Survive, that's what it's called. That one's still coming out. That's like a game that is based off this one, in terms of gameplay, in terms of assets used. Yeah, so pretty much this is a prequel to the series in general. Like in terms of timeline, the series canonically there are games after it. Of course, well, there's a game after it, but the series ended with Metal Gear Solid 4, which saw the end of a lot of the characters like Solid Snake, Big Boss, and Revolver Ocelot. But this game is a prequel, just kind of to fill in the gaps between where the series began with Metal Gear and where the series left off with Peace Walker. Go lay down. Go lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Peace Walker was before this. Well, technically before this was Metal Gear Solid 4 Ground Zeroes, which was a little like kind of DLC game. I mean, they put it on disc and everything like that, but it's a prologue to the game. As well as this, kind of to set up what essentially is a time lapse between what the events in Ground Zeroes until now. So basically, in Ground Zeroes, Big Boss was infiltrating a base off the where is it? It's off the coast of Cuba, I think, because the game before it, Peace Walker, was supposed to be during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and it's kind of ties into the story. It's off the coast of somewhere, but it's American territory island. And anyway, two characters from Peace Walker are residing there, and Big Boss is supposed to go there to get them out. In the meantime, Cypher, which is a organization, kind of a shadow organization for the Patriots, which is another shadow organization. This is how complicated the stories are. Basically, sabotages Mother Base, which is Big Boss's basically base of operation, obviously by the name, and they kind of fuck up a lot. Yeah, that hand doesn't look as good as it does in the other versions. They kind of simplify the textures on it. But in that game, it ends with a helicopter accident, and then Big Boss being put into a coma for 9 years. And then this is the after result of Big Boss being put into a coma for 9 years. Is basically he wakes up and starts freaking out, and then the events that follow are pretty dramatic. This is consistently the most cinematic part of the game. A lot of people were disappointed with this game upon its release because the gameplay isn't very cinematic for the most part, but this beginning is heavily cinematic. Like, there are very cinematic parts in the game, but they're few and far between. It's mostly gameplay, which is what I liked about the game a lot. Like, a lot of the Metal Gear games sacrifice gameplay for cinematic effect. Like, there's a lot of times where stuff was just happening. This guy, I cannot focus on. There we go. Let's say I could not focus on that guy to save my life. I'll get a little zoom in there. Yeah. So, a lot of those Metal Gear Solid games, and especially a lot of people gave criticism to Metal Gear Solid 4 because that entire game was more cutscenes than gameplay. Like, you would run through a part of the level in, like, maybe 20 minutes, and then you would enter 20 to 30 minutes of, like, cutscenes. Yeah, you can see right there with the hair. See how it's kind of just, like, it's almost like it's fading in and out. It's crazy. So what I'm doing now is, this is another aspect of making the avatar. Making a face. The explanation in the story is that you need a face to hide your identity as Big Boss. I'm just going to choose this guy as is, and that's it. I don't need anything else. He's very close to Big Boss in terms of looks. Yeah, I'll use this avatar. Anyway, he's supposed to hide his identity because people are after him, because of Big Boss. Obviously, big war veteran, criminal, whatever you would call him. And it's a lot of details with the story. I mean, if you want to know more about the story, play the game. But for right now, I'm trying to get past this point, do a little less talking from here on out, just to kind of get to the gameplay, because the main part about this video is just basically making a little let's play just for this version of the game specifically. You can see right here one of the characters getting assassinated. We're about to enter the part where we actually enter gameplay. This part's really good. She's coming over. She's gonna get you. The look on his face is just like, He doesn't even look at that shot. Oh god. He had a gun the whole time. Yeah, even for the 360, this game still looks really good. They did a great job at porting this to older consoles. Like, there's some textures that are blurred out, and there's some just particle effects that don't work right. Like, but they don't look awful. We have one of the characters finally. Yeah, like, most of this looks pretty much the same as what I remember, and that's kind of impressive that they got this to happen. Because the game looks really fucking good. Like, aside from this, like, what you're seeing is just very... Not even that much scaled back, but like on the PS4, it's just a very good looking game. There's amazing facial animation and like the motion capture, especially like her face. Most of the main characters' faces are really well done, and just the realism in most of the character models. honestly amazing. But on the PS4, it still looks really good. Like even when you get to outside scenery, it looks brilliant. And this version is not that bad. It's like not even. Ooh, it's like not even skimping on a lot of the textures. Like they're blurry at times, but they're still like really good. Like look at the bandages. Like you think they would just kind of simplify it, but they have this particle effect to them that's really impressive. She's fucking on fire, and she's still going with it. She's still gonna try. That's impressive, the fact that she was able to fucking knock that knife away. Jesus fuck. That still looks really good. Like, look at the fucking flower petals still had a lot of detail to it. This is okay. The texture on his belly button is, like, non-existent. It's all pixels. It's all pixels. That's why we're here. That's why we're on this version. This is Ishmael. Our first mate. He wants to get us out of the hospital. He has a very familiar voice. I'll let you take that context for what it is. Those who know, you know. You know the identity of this man. Those who don't, find out. Figure it out. Dummies. Dinguses. You always gotta have a good booster on a bad day. Give him a booster every bad day is what I like to say. That's a famous saying I've actually made up. If you hear that saying in real life, you're gonna be like, hey, I know the guy who invented that saying. Alright, we're out of first person, and we're now in the danger zone. We are the man who's gotta crawl across a floor. Look at that sweaty... Oh, shit, my fucking beer. Fucking beer just spilled. Pause.